What's up, everybody? Welcome to the newest episode of Tree City Trading. My name's Tree City Wes. Today we're going to be going over the Xen Miner. We're going to cover some topics like how do I mine XenBLOCKs, what are Xen Superblocks, can I mine it, and is it worth it? And we're going to take a unique perspective. Rather than just kind of giving you all the information up front, I'm actually going to give it to you from the man himself, Jack Levin. So what I've done throughout this video is I've actually collected all of the information from the Xen Miner Telegram that Jack has given to the group, and I'm going to kind of summarize it and we're going to talk about it. So let's get into it. So it all started on the first day, and the first day isn't necessarily when the mining started. This is the first day that Jack had created the Telegram, and these are the conversations that we were having in that group. A lot of us were confused, we weren't sure what this is, and basically Jack said, you're mining blocks, it's a game. They're just blocks. It's running a version of the Bitcoin miner that I've changed the code on. And later he talked about how he actually used GPT to edit the code, to create the code, and now we're all running these miners. And the goal of the mining is for the community members to explore their ability to mine Xen blocks. Each block is counted when your miner finds a sequence of Xen 11 in your hashes. If your hash has a Xen 11 and at least 65 characters of the hash is caps, then you get what's called a Superblock. And you can see these on the leaderboard. And once I saw there was a leaderboard, I instantly gravitated to it. I'm super competitive. I wanted to be number one on the leaderboard. So I started looking into it. And to mine blocks, you should download the miner from the same page as the leaderboard. And you can run as many active miner processes as you want, but make sure to check your account with your ETH account so that your blocks are accounted for you and only you. So as we continued to talk in the Telegram, I still wasn't sure what was going on, so I kind of had to really focus in on what Jack was asking, and that's one of the best things about Jack Levin. He makes himself available to the community. So we're able to go in there, probe him with questions, and kind of get some answers on what is this Xen miner. So Jack later explains that this is exploration of ASIC GPU resistant mining algorithms. That means that these miners can be run by regular people, and not just these super fancy ant miners, ASIC miners. You're able to run a Xen miner on something as simple as a Raspberry Pi. So as the conversation continued, a lot of people were asking, what's the chain? Is there gas? Where's the Explorer? And Jack goes on to explain there are no chains. It's just mining. It costs you nothing. The leaderboard checks for the last 40 block submissions. And he goes on to explain that it's very similar to Bitcoin mining. In Bitcoin mining, they look for 5 zeros, but for Xen mining, we're looking for Xen 11. But at this point, it's much more basic than Bitcoin. There's no network. The first day, we can't transfer Xen blocks. There's no securing anything. There's no consensus. It's really just kind of a showcase of how strong your mining skills are and how many of those Xen 11 blocks. And he further goes on to describe that, hey, it's not even a blockchain. He's basically running a SQLite database server, and he's storing the blocks in the database. So that kind of means that it's centralized at this point. So as some time went on, a couple days passed, some new features were added, including the MetaMask and the Superblocks. So first, let's get into what Superblocks are. Within the first couple days, everybody was mining blocks, just with Xen 11. A superblock is a found hash or a block that contains the Xen 11, but it also has 70 capital letters in it. That's what makes it a superblock. It's more rare than a regular block. It's a superblock because it has Xen 11 and a bunch of capital letters in it. And then once they added the MetaMask integration, you're able to connect your MetaMask to the XenBLOCK network, the Xen Miner network, and see your superblocks right in your MetaMask. But at this point, there's not much we can do with it. This early, there is no sending, there is no receiving, it's not implemented yet, but all superblocks will show up as XBlock coins in MetaMask. So that's pretty cool. It's starting to feel like a real blockchain. You're mining hashes. When we find a block that says Xen 11 with a bunch of capital letters, we get a tick in our MetaMask that says, hey, we have another coin. And this is where things really started to get interesting to me. Jack actually popped in the chat and said, Superblocks are currency. They're hard to find. So this rarity of superblocks almost gives them a value that doesn't exist yet. So if I was one to speculate, superblocks are currency, I'm going to start mining to get some superblocks to speculate on this future currency. And that's kind of where I was at. We're mining away, I'm climbing up the leaderboard, and then Jack makes this big announcement. You'll be able to use your superblocks to purchase .Xen namespace, meaning like .eth, but with Xen extension. It will work when I get the RPC server set up to verify signed transactions from MetaMask, issuing an order to buy. You'll be able to send your XBlock between your accounts or send it to others. How cool is that? He's creating his own namespace network for the .Xen extension that you'll be able to purchase with the Xen blocks that you're mining. Boom, there's a use case for this mining. And it even goes on to say the alpha is name.zen like name.eth. And as we're all chatting, we're all coming up with some different ideas here. Jack mentioned, hey, we could even introduce levels of super blocks. You could have gold blocks and platinum blocks and different rarity of blocks, kind of like Satoshis in Bitcoin. And these different blocks are harder to find and harder to mine, but they may be worth more to a Xen block speculator. And again, this is one of my favorite things about Jack Levin. He's kind of in here being tech support for the XenBLOCKs crew. The entire chat has a whole buzz about the situation, and they're asking all these questions. Does ENS support it? Or I guess the better question is, does this support ENS? And I'm hoping it does, because if you take a look at the leaderboard, I'm in the top 20, but I'm using my .eth address. I technically don't have any super blocks yet. However, Mr. Levin did confirm that not yet, but ENS will be enabled soon. He also pops in and says, I think your firewall is blocking port 81. And this is really just a testament to how awesome this community is. We're all just talking. Cheating's impossible because it's hashing, their numbers, it's math. Jack kind of estimates you'll generate one super block in every 1,000 blocks, but if you're lucky, you can find it ASAP. I'm kind of having the opposite problem. I'm unlucky. I have a wallet that has about 1,600 blocks, but it has 0 super blocks so far. And now the word is starting to spread, word of mouth, and that hash rate is increasing. Jack even goes on to say, hey, we have a lot of miners now. By the way, the miner is set up to generate hashes of private keys using SHA-256 as fast as possible. That's an old algo that Bitcoin uses. After the private key is derived from the random input, it's submitted into the Argon 2 CPU mining algorithm for Xen 11 in the Superblock search. XenBLOCKs running in hybrid mode between both. And he's trying to give the community ideas to take this and run with it. Someone could make a web page to run the Argon 2 miner from a browser. How cool would that be? You could just set a web page that's mining XenBLOCKs all day from a simple hosting package. That would be pretty cool. So as more time passes, more and more people are booting up their miners, and it's becoming evident that difficulty needs to increase. So later that day, Jack said, I'm implementing a dynamic difficulty increase that would pin the global hash rate to around 5,000 kilohash per second. The difficulty will adjust memory usage to be higher for the miner, and this will introduce a more ASIC-like resistance, like Monero mining. He announced that at 1 p.m., 5 p.m., are you ready for the difficulty adjustment? Then later that day, boom, new miner on the GitHub. So you have to go to the GitHub, you download the fresh code, start running the miners, and you're good to go. Now, rather than setting the difficulty within the miner code specifically, it'll automatically adjust the mining, kind of like Bitcoin. If a bunch of miners join, the hash rate's going to go way up, more blocks will be found, it's going to make the network more difficult to find more blocks. If miners exit out, there will be less hash rate and the difficulty will decrease, making it easier for miners to find XenBLOCKs and Xen Superblocks. So this is what's happening. You're mining and you haven't found a block yet, but you reached 1 million attempts. Your miner will stop mining with the old memory cost and adjust to the new memory cost and restart. It's not losing the block, it's actually self-adjusting the difficulty, which is a new upgrade within the first week of this project releasing. It's so cool. So what is the future of the Xen mining? I mean, this could go in so many different directions. Currently, Superblocks are confirmed by the leaderboard server. It's very centralized, literally in a SQL server. Jack wants to decentralize, turn it into a decentralized ledger. To do that, there has to be some sort of consensus, some sort of understanding that, hey, this is a real block among the network. So miners will be enabled to vote on Superblock finality. 2/3 of the votes would make your ownership of Superblocks final, meaning there won't be a central authority that determines the correctness of your hash, a SQL database. 2/3 of the mining network will be given a chance to verify it. And he goes on to say that miners with a high reputation will be able to run faster. Reputation score can drop and your miner will run slower if you submit invalid block solutions and try to game the system. And they also turned on transactions. If you update the RPC in your MetaMask, you're able to send your XenBLOCKs between your accounts. And what's interesting is it's gasless. The transactions are gasless. And then there was a bombshell dropped on us that will XenBLOCKs be connected to the X1 blockchain? And Jack confirms it will be. You'll be able to transfer your XBlock tokens from the Xen mining chain directly to X1 and then use it to interact with smart contracts. I'm really curious to see the direction that this goes. This could mean that this mining chain is kind of a proof of work side chain that can be used as an alternative form of consensus maybe. Or maybe I'm overthinking it and it's just a game to mine blocks to buy Xen namespace. Either way, I think it's really cool. It's a really interesting concept. And the concept is fair mining. And right now, if you wanted to mine Bitcoin, you wouldn't be able to do that with a CPU or a GPU miner. You would need a dedicated ASIC, something like an ANT miner, to be able to mine Bitcoin. And the difficulty is so high today that you really wouldn't have much of a shot to be profitable because of the big players, the big pools out there that are basically mining all the blocks before we can even get there. So in conclusion, I thought this was really cool. We're all Satoshi. Jack states, this is how Bitcoin started. We're all Satoshi now. And he's not the only one referencing this. I see a lot of people in the chat kind of saying, hey, this feels a lot like Bitcoin mining when Bitcoin mining first started. Now, I wasn't really around in crypto back then. I was going to college. I didn't even know about Bitcoin until much later, maybe 2015. But there's definitely a buzz around this and an interesting feeling while we're mining this. It feels like there's a bigger plan for this, and I'm so happy to participate. And even if there's not a bigger plan, it's just fun learning how to run Python, learning about encryption algorithms, learning how mining works, and finding these super blocks and getting the tally on the leaderboard and working my way up the leaderboard. It's just been an awesome experience. So just real quick, this isn't really an instructional video, but basically what you need to do is install Python, install the prerequisites, update the account in the Python script, and then run the script. And that's all you have to do to mine. If you don't know where to start, I highly suggest using something like Google or ChatGPT and asking it questions like, how do I run a Python script? How do I install the prerequisites? What do these errors mean when I'm trying to... You can Google what the errors mean. You can pop the errors directly into ChatGPT to get a fix. I highly suggest getting your hands dirty, experimenting, and playing around rather than just copying, pasting instructions. So just real briefly, we're going to take a look at the code. You can get the code directly on Jack's GitHub. So at the top of the code, it imports the prerequisites. It uses JSON, the requests, the time, the passlib.hash, the Argon2, which is the encryption algorithm, the hash library, and it basically takes all these different prerequisites and the code below uses them. Now, if you're thinking about mining, the part that you're really going to want to pay attention to are lines 10 through 13. Now, the first three, you really don't want to touch. The difficulty, the memory cost, and the cores. These are already optimized, so you're not going to change these and magically get better mining. However, the account is the most important thing in this script. You must put your wallet address or your ENS name or whatever you want it to say on the leaderboard in this section. If you do not, then you're not going to get credit for the mines you block. This default address will get the credits. So make sure if you decide to mine, you go into the Python script, you edit your account, and you put your own account or ENS name in there. So basically, here's the code, just very basic. It starts by initializing the data. Then it calculates the hash. It uses the SHA-256 hash library that we mentioned. This is the same hash library that's used for generating Bitcoin keys. So that's kind of interesting. He's also added a function to get the difficulty level for the server. So anytime the difficulty level changes, you don't have to go into the script and manually change it. It automatically adjusts the difficulty and it pulls that right from the server. And then this is where it starts to get fun. It generates a random SHA-256. Once that key is created, it passes it to the mine block. But then it also uses the Argon2 hasher. But check this out. This is a little Easter egg. You can use salt when you're creating hashes, when you're creating keys. It's kind of the randomness, the added randomness of the keys. So the salt for this is actually Xen 10/8/2022 Xen. So I thought that was kind of cool. It's basically the date that Xen launched. It uses that to salt the encryption keys just to make it a little more random. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then this is kind of new here. They added this recently. It'll update the difficulty every 1,000,000 attempts. And that's what he mentioned in the chat. If it doesn't mine a block after 1,000,000 attempts, it'll reach out to the server, make sure it has the correct difficulty, and then update itself. Very cool. Later in the script, it basically posts it to the web page, uses HTTP to send the verification to the server. The server verifies that the data is correct, and then it prints the server's response. So that pretty much wraps up the video. If you're looking for more information about XenBLOCKs, I highly recommend heading over to Jack Levin's Twitter, joining the XenBLOCKs Telegram. There are already hundreds of people in there asking questions, booting up these miners, and getting ready to mine these Xen Superblocks. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, reach out to me on Telegram. I'm happy to help. I'll walk you through the setup, and we'll get it going together. And as always, I hope you guys like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for watching Tree City Trading. Tree City Wes is out.